Hey everybody, it's Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the One-Handed Mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. Today we are working on a carburetor off of a Honda GX390. I will put in a link in the description below on how to remove and reinstall it on the generator that this came off of, but this is basically showing you how to rebuild and clean the carburetor, so let's get to it. Take this bolt off the bottom of the carburetor. I'm just going to go ahead and take the O-ring off. Just tap this, comes off. Okay, looks like the bowl isn't in too bad a condition. The bowl gasket, you have to be careful. These are rubber, but you don't want to break them. I'm going to try to reuse them. If you can't reuse them, replace them. This one is, and you can see the little white powdery stuff on the gasket, and I'm pretty sure that's like ethanol. If you can find non-ethanol gas, it's the best way to go. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the ultrasonic cleaner too. We'll try to clean that up. Right down in this groove here, you want to make sure that you clean that up. And this has the automatic float adjustment, so you don't have to worry about the float adjustment on this, but you have to make sure this pin should move freely. Comes out. Put that in the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm going to turn this over and look at the needle valve. The needle valve looks like it's in pretty decent shape. I usually put this underneath a magnifying glass. Now there's a little spring right in there. I'm just going to push this up and out. But you got to make sure that you don't lose the spring right here. And then you want to look at this just to make sure it doesn't have any, if it's got some big rings that are imprinted, you're going to have to buy a new needle valve. Do not use gum cutter or any kind of harsh carburetor cleaner on these, you'll ruin them. And then you want to shake your float, make sure there's no fuel on it. That means it's bad. If it's bad, you just throw it away, get a new one. Now we have the main jet, which is usually the problem in here. It's right down inside there. Okay, so I'm using a number 4 flathead bit. That's going to go down to get, it has to sit perfectly into the jet, which I'll show you in a second when we get it out. This one is really tight. Just press firm on the jet. Once it's loose, it should unscrew. And it's only going to thread out to a certain point. It's going to stop, and you're going to wonder why it won't keep coming. And the reason why it won't keep coming is because the bowl bolt is what threads up here. So what you're going to do is you're going to tip it over. Once it stops going, it'll fall out. And you can see this is just brass, and it's a very fine slot right there. So a number 4 slot head works great. And normally these are clogged. Now inside here, there is what they call the emulsion tube, and that has to come out. And I did hear a lot of people use Croy oil, or I use PB Blaster if it doesn't want to come out. Most of the time they do come out. I just go ahead and tap this on some wood, and it just falls right out. Right, like so. You just have to remember, now there's very small orifices in here, and you want to take a very small piece of wire and clean everything out. And you can use, your carburetor cleaner on the brass parts, but when you put the emulsion tube back in again, the big flat spot on the end is going to go in last, and then the jet is going to press against it like that. So we're going to go ahead and clean these up now. Also on this carburetor, you have a port right here, which needs to be sprayed out. A port right here, and this is with your carburetor cleaner that you may have on hand. We also need to remove the low-speed jet that's inside here. This is the idle screw that also holds in the cap that holds in the jet for the low speed, so Phillips head screwdriver. You can count the threads if you want. All I remember to do is when you put this idle screw back in again, you're just going to go halfway over that cap, and that's what holds in the jet. So we just take that off of here. This should just pop up. This is just a cap that holds the jet right here. Take my clip removal tool, pop that up. There's a couple O-rings on this, so it may be a little bit sticky. This one is stuck. Really hard to see in here. There's a little teeny brass orifice in there that you have to clean. And what I normally do is I try to get the wire to come up through there. You can see the wire through the hole right there. And that means that it's actually open and clean. I'm also going to put this into the ultrasonic cleaner. And I use a couple different pieces of wire, whatever you have on hand. This is just 2 little different pieces of wire here. And we also have to make sure that we clean these very small ports in the back of this carburetor, and there is 3 of them back in there. Now some of you guys have some have an unscrewable low speed jet right here that you can unscrew. Doesn't allow you to take them out, and you can break off the top or maybe uncap them. I've had no luck. There's minimal adjustment on this. Normally these don't do much of anything when on a generator. See how it moved down, and then you can open it up a little bit by turning it a little bit. So they give you a little option for a little bit of adjustment, but that's only for your low speed. So let's go ahead and clean out those 3 holes right there. The bigger carburetors are so much easier to work on than the little ones. You don't need to have as small of a piece of wire. All right, they're clean. Now, if you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, which most of you guys, 99% of you guys will not, get yourself some carb cleaner, spray it into that hole. You can spray it into those holes in there. If you can take this out, great. Spray in there, clean it off. Inside here you want to spray in. You're going to spray through this hole right here, spray it through here. Spray it inside your jet right, or inside where the jet goes in here. You can spray off all this. Normally this plastic part will be okay, but I usually don't have any problems with them. But you got to be careful though with plastic. That's why cleaning these can be a little bit tricky sometimes. But I'm going to go ahead and put this in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we'll be right back. Okay, so here's the carburetor, all nice and clean. Now the ultrasonic cleaner does a nice job, but as you can see, it left a little something to get scraped there. But everything else came out real nice. And also, I didn't show you, but this is the bowl drain, and it was really stuck. So I just wanted to show this to you. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. It's a good idea to take this out and clean off the end here. This is not a jet. This just opens up the flow from here to there, so you can drain the carburetor. But this can get clogged inside here, so it's a good idea to clean that out. Make sure that air will flow through here when this is out, which this one does. And I did clean it out. So right here for this brown part, just going to go ahead and use a pick. Ultrasonic cleaner does a nice job, but sometimes it just doesn't get all the stuff. Okay, so not much to clean up there. I put everything in, everything came out real nice. You just want to look for the ridge. There's no ridge on there. It's really nice. This is the main jet, and the hole now is gigantic. It was a little bit clogged. It wasn't all the way clogged, but it was definitely clogged. Emulsion tube came out nice. I'm going to go ahead and put this back together again. And if you guys, I mean, just spray it with some carburetor cleaner or some cleaner inside the orifices and just let it dry. And you'll do the best you can. If it doesn't work, then you have to buy a new carburetor. The O-ring came out nice. I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. Has a seat like so. The little spring. Little spring goes on the end of your needle valve. Oops, I just about lost it. You don't want to lose that guy. And you're going to push it up through. Okay, so it's straight. That should be right. Just make sure it's on proper. Going to go ahead and put the emulsion tube in. Flat spot facing out. Just going to sit, bump it in. Jet. Now that's going to slide down in there all the way. You're going to go down That's probably down about 1/2 inch right there before it starts to hit threads. Don't have to go crazy tightening these up too tight. Snug it in. Float needle valve. Pin came out nice and clean. Make sure it's working correctly. Make sure your gasket is sitting in here correctly in the recess. You're going to put your bowl back on. And the bowl was facing just about like that. So we're going to go ahead and put it back the way it was. Go put the O-ring back on your bowl bolt. $14mm. Okay, we have to put the smaller jet on top. You can go either that way or that way. Flat spot against a flat spot on the carburetor. Okay, so it should sit flush down like that. You have the cap that goes over, then your idle screw. I always screw this in by hand to get it started. Once it's started, then you can use your Phillips screwdriver. And you're only going to go in halfway on that cap. Once you're about halfway, then you stop. And that's pretty much it for rebuilding the carburetor. If it doesn't say KEIHIN, this is the OEM carburetor, so if it doesn't say that on there, and this also has some numbers on the side right here, and it also has, I think on the other, where's one more, right here it says BE. If it doesn't have this on the side, it's not an OEM carburetor. There's a lot of aftermarket carburetors out there, and yes, you can get yourself an aftermarket carburetor. They may or may not work. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share my channel with friends, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.